is working.
Yeah.
Let's see if it gives me a countdown here. Oh, here we go. It's uploading. 44, 47, 50.
Let's see here.
Welcome in, everybody, to Gambling with Good JuJu, the show with more madness and mayhem than March. We're thrilled to be coming to everyone live in advance of March Madness on YouTube. That's something we can do now that we are on Video Juice, and he's now over there, so that doesn't even matter anymore. We're getting there, folks. We're thrilled to be joined today by Moyne Dolphin Hall of Famer and college basketball handicapper Mike Montesano. For more on Mike, check out our episode with him last November, where I apparently trolled him into getting a Twitter account. Speaking of which, do us a favor while we kick things off and give us a subscribe here on YouTube. If you're following along next day on your favorite podcast platform, give us a follow there as well. We can be found on all the socials at Good JuJu Bets. And if you really appreciate what we're doing, then head on over to goodjujubets.net, click on the merch shop, and show your support. Enough screwing around. It's tourney time. Mike, welcome into the show. Tell me, how excited are you that this week is here?
Best 3 weeks of the year. I mean, if you're not a college basketball fan, you can just somehow right after the Super Bowl and here comes March Madness, and you can feel the excitement everywhere. My boys are excited. You talk to other people on Twitter, everyone's excited. More of the gambling content is getting bigger and bigger with March Madness now that football is over, and it's fun, man. It's a lot of fun.
Are you still going March Madness over college football playoff?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not. The college football playoff, it's nice. I'm glad they're expanded it a little bit. It just isn't the juice. No pun intended. It just isn't the juice, but it just doesn't do it for me. There's nothing like March Madness. Three great weeks.
I mean, this is the most fun from a pure sports all day long kind of perspective. The intensity of college sports alone, like you see it on the football field, but those moments are more encapsulated in like one game once a week. Whereas here it's just all day. You feel that adrenaline.
I mean, right now, the very first game is Alabama State and St. Francis, and I think it went right down to the wire. I think Alabama State won at the end. I turned it off to come down to get ready for the show, but I mean, game one, and it's got a lot of excitement.
Yeah, I think it went to overtime.
You know, I did not like the opening round when it first started, but man, now we get it Tuesday, Wednesday, in addition to Thursday on.
Right.
The only tweak that I would make with the opening round is I would have all the 16 seeds. They won their conference tournament. I would put them automatically in, and let's have like 4 11 versus 11 games, and to fight it out to get into the tournament. I mean, because those 16 seeds, they won their tournament. They should be in. Why do they have to play one extra game to get in? And it might also, with all the controversy going on the last few days, it could alleviate some of that.
And I agree with you 100% there. I've agreed with that stance from day one. Ever since they introduced it, I always said, come on, don't do that to the little guys. Do it to the ones who had to work and fight and are on the bubble anyway.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, let's get into this. Mike, first, before we kick things off on the bracket, we're going to go bracket by bracket here. Let's do a quick futures review, because you and I have been talking over the course of this entire basketball season, and we've both had our own plays. I regret not being on one of your plays, but give me a feel. Where are you at? What are you on? How are you feeling right now?
Well, I think I'm feeling good with one of them, and we'll get to that in a second. But, I started my futures portfolio back in May, believe it or not. On May 1st, I made my first future bet. I took Kentucky at 40-1 and 35-1. And that, if you look at the futures odds right now, sometimes it's better to wait. I showed a little impatience, but I thought they'd go in the portal. They get a lot of talent, and they did. They really did. But the SEC became like, just one of, they became the toughest conference in the country. But I got them at 40 and 35 to 1, and now they're at 60 to 1. Shortly after, I did jump on Alabama on May 5th at 20 to 1, and you could actually get them right now at 22 to 1. And then we waited a few months. I think I told you on the last on the podcast we did in November. I jumped a little bit on Grand Canyon at 500 to 1, just because I knew they had a lot of guys coming back. And you can get them at 800 to 1 if you think Grand Canyon's going to.
Hey, they're in the dance. Any of those single entry leagues, you got one in the dance.
Absolutely. And then on November 7th, I believe I told you as well on the podcast that I did take a little bit on BYU at 75 to 1. And you can get them right now at 90 to 1 if you're interested in BYU. But that, I took them just more I really liked the coach that was coming in from the NBA. So I didn't, I put a little bit on them. And then, you got to grab a team that doesn't make the tournament, right? And I did that with Cincinnati on November 26th. I got, 20 at 66 to 1. A lot of these, and you'll see that with the last one I took, I really want to see if I can get the best number before the season starts. And then I'll take chances with some of the long shots. And that to me is what I feel is the best way to build a portfolio. And, obviously Cincinnati's not in the tournament, but then now we get to the big one. I have Florida on November 29th. I texted you. I took them at 60 to 1, and I found a rogue offshore account at 80 to 1. If, now as we all know, Florida is one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country.
Wow. Yeah. We had a similar experience with our plays this year where we took Kansas at 12 to 1. So don't feel too bad about anything you're sitting on. Our one big play that we're holding out on here is Auburn. We grabbed Auburn at 16 to 1, and they're down there. But what it feels like to me, and maybe you can speak to this from prior years, the top 4 seeds seem to be sucking up a lot of the odds on the overall market there.
Yep.
Is that true this year, or is this something you see in other years as well?
I think you see it, and maybe not as big as this year, because we've got 4 number 1 seeds that are just absolutely dynamite. I mean, you can go back to the Ken Pom era and go look at adjusted efficiency margins from all the winners. And I believe the median, and I posted it on my Twitter page, the median is the last 25 years is 32.0 in adjusted efficiency margin. Well, we've got 3 teams that are at 35 or above right now with Auburn and Florida and Notre Dame. And UConn won last year at plus 36. So you've got those 4 teams that are taking up most of the odds. And then that's why, a team like Alabama, 22 to 1, because they're in the same side with Duke. And, you can still find, if you like teams like an Alabama or maybe a Tennessee, you got some pretty good numbers right now with them. Yeah.
That Tennessee one, we're going to get into this as we go through the bracket. Still have zero faith in Rick Barnes. Don't see it happening.
I know.
But we'll go through this and we'll talk about it. Let's get into this now. So we're going to go around to the various brackets, and we're going to start here in the East.
Okay.
Oh, no, let's start in the South. We're going to start up in the South. I'm looking at the wrong thing here. All right. Where Auburn is the number 1 seed and Michigan State is the 2. Let's start with some lower seeds you can pull off the win, that can pull off the win in the first round, because there's a big one talked about a lot here. Yeah. Who pulls off an upset in the South in the first round?
Well, it's the trendy pick, but it's UC San Diego. I ran my model, and I got that as a 1.5 point game, Michigan State minus 1.5. So it's basically a coin flip game. And I think the spread is 3 maybe, or 2.5 or 3. I'd have to go back and double check. But they have 30 wins. They don't play a tremendous schedule, but the Big West isn't awful. But they've got length, they've got talent. A lot of guys coming, in the transfer portal from last year, but they can shoot, and they're just a gritty, hard-nosed team. And I have them actually going to the Sweet 16. That's the one of my upsets that I have. And I tell you what, I don't think anyone wants to hear the word North Carolina, but if they win tonight, it's a coin flip game versus Ole Miss. And I think they can beat Ole Miss. And, So I don't know. Should they be in? That's a whole nother conversation. I'm not worried about that now. I look at numbers. I look at style of play. And I really like North Carolina if they win tonight.
Interesting.
What about Texas A&M Yale? Because I'm hearing these things about Yale, but I like Buzz Williams as a coach. And I'm just sitting here kind of going, I'm not seeing it in any of the numbers. I'm not seeing anything, but it seems to be a hot take that's out there.
It's the hot take because they beat Auburn last year, so it's like, well, Yale, they're very good. A coach been around their program for 25 something years. So they have a system, they have a style of play, hard-nosed kids, but the athletes at A&M, I just think are just too much. And I do like Buzz as well. I think he'll find a way. I mean, offensively, they struggle. They really struggle, but they'll get their rebounds. They're one of the top offensive teams in the country. And I just think there's too much talent there. And I have them going, I have them beating Yale and playing UC San Diego. But like I said, I think UC San Diego will upset Texas A&M.
Wow. Okay. So you're on the side of UC San Diego, even though that game's almost a pick 'em.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here going now, well, I mean, come on, this is the trendy pick, and Michigan still got dudes, and they just won the Big Ten tournament.
Kind of right.
This game should be 5, not 2.5, is what I said to myself. I know.
Yeah. Ball.
And the game is being played on Thursday. If the game were playing Friday, believe it or not, that one extra day of rest may have helped Michigan. But, don't ask me why they still do these conference games on Sunday. It makes zero sense to me. If you're going to play conference games on Sunday, get them over, have them start at noon or something like that. I mean, they ended their game at like 5:30, 6 o'clock Eastern. And now they gotta go out to Denver, which is, high elevation in Denver. Okay. Yep. So, and UC San Diego's they gotta play in it too. But their legs could get a little tired in the second half, after playing a tough Big Ten, 3 straight games in the Big Ten tournament, and kudos to them for winning it. I love Dusty May, great coach. But I think they're going to be a little worn down in the second half in that game.
Okay. All right. Give me one game in this bracket. First round. Which one, from a fan perspective, are you most excited to lock into?
Well, from a fan perspective, the UC San Diego game, because it's a coin flip style game and their style of play. But I tell you what, I really want to see Ole Miss versus North Carolina.
Yeah.
Because you're going to still have people out there saying they shouldn't be in. Guys, it's over with. Okay. If they beat San Diego State tonight, it's a coin flip game based on all the metrics with Ole Miss. And I think, Chris Beard's an excellent coach. It's going to be a back and forth style game. And, I think it'll come down to the final two or three possessions. And, I think North Carolina can get it done. They've got the athlete. North Carolina's played really well in the last 10 games. Again, the ACC is not the greatest conference. We know that, but they still are top 5 in the country. And we all know about the SEC. The SEC is number 1, and Ole Miss is battle tested. They have a great coach, but that will be a great game to watch.
Not to divert here real quick. There was just an article on Ken Pom that was asking the question, is the SEC slightly overrated?
Yeah.
And is there a sense of that where, like, once these teams all get into conference play and they start beating each other up?
Yeah.
My fear is that, I know offense drives championships, but defense is still, you need to be well-rounded. And I wonder if in the SEC, all this, just these running up of games and all that is going to have an impact come tournament time. Are you worried at all?
It could. It's something I don't really think about. I know Ken Pom has that article out there talking about it. You beat each other up all year, and then how are they going to react? Well, we played the toughest schedule. How is it going to react? But I mean, I look at a team like Alabama last year. Their non-conference schedule was absolutely brutal. Okay, the SEC I think was second in the Ken Pom ratings for their conference, but they were battle tested. And they were a 4 seed, and they got to the Final Four, and they faced a juggernaut of a team in UConn. But I do think that helps you when you're playing every single game. Is just it's tough, and it gets you prepared for March.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say this. If you look at our wall of hats here, Donovan Dent and Nelly Joseph Jr. show out, and UNM upsets Marquette.
Yeah.
That's my call.
I just worry about there was a stat like not Conference Mountain West has not performed well recently over the years. I can't remember the stat. I'm sorry. I heard it on VEASAN the other day, but that is I don't trust Shaka Smart in the tournament, and New Mexico's got a heck of a coach, and I definitely think New Mexico. I did not pick them, but I think it'll be a close game. I did go with Marquette and Shaka Smart in that one.
I was working on my MBA there the year that Harvard knocked them off as I think that was a 13-4 game. I won't trust them. I won't trust UNM. I don't really trust Illinois either, but we'll get to them in another.
Are they healthy? Are they done with the flu bug and all that stuff with Illinois?
Illinois is healthy, and they were healthy when they played Maryland. So I don't know what to tell you. Any teams that can prevent the 1-2 matchup, Auburn versus Michigan State in the Elite Eight?
Possibly Iowa State. I know they just lost one of their better players, but their metrics look good. And sometimes it's addition by subtraction. When you lose a player and you have time to prepare, they could be the one that could knock off Michigan State and get in to play Auburn. That's the one team I would keep an eye on is Iowa State. But I don't have them winning. I do have North Carolina beating Iowa State just for the fact that how healthy are they? I mean, we get a different report every day about different players, so we'll see. I do like the coach, defensive minded coach, but their offense has gotten a lot better this year. But, you got to be healthy this time of year. You really, with all your top players.
Is Hubert Davis even going to have a job after this year?
I think they just signed him to extension, didn't they?
They did? Even though North Carolina lives on the bubble. They've had a couple hot runs or one hot run as a lower seed. I'm a little surprised. But for the record, I have Auburn ISU. It's not because I'm an expert. It's because those are the two teams on our card. That would be phenomenal for us.
Yes, that is important.
Auburn ISU. And last but not least, who do you have coming out of this region?
I do have Auburn coming out of the region. I just think you guys have to look at all the metrics and everything. I know they lost in the SEC. They've lost 3 of their last 4. I understand all that. No team that's lost 3 of their last 4 heading into the tournament has won the national championship. But that's not saying they're going to win the national championship. I have them getting to the Final Four. They're deep. They have athletes everywhere, and they're an older team. I don't know if you saw that stat, like their average age of their starters compared to the Oklahoma City Thunder average age of their starters. I think it was Auburn was like 23.1 and Oklahoma City was like 24.2 or something like that.
Wow.
So, yeah. So they have athletes. They have a very good coach who, again, hasn't won in big spots. I understand that, but what they're doing metrically this year is something they've never done before. So I have Auburn going to the Final Four.
No. Me too. I don't see a truly scary test in this region. I don't see one of the other one of the non-1 seeds that I look at and I kind of go, that's kind of scary. Now, I watch Bruce Pearl, Satan, and I realize they're going to lose in the second round. So, he gets it done in March. His numbers are good, but there's still something about him that I'm worried about, but I do have a ticket on him, and I do feel good over it.
And I had them last year to win the whole darn thing, and they lost to Yale. So.
Yep. All right, let's move over to the East region, where Duke is the number 1 seed and Alabama the 2 seed. Let's start here. Does Cooper Flagg's injury worry you at all?
No, because the X-rays came back negative. And it's not a high ankle sprain from what we gather and whatever all the information we're hearing. I don't know if he'll play the first game. They're not going to really need it against the Winter American Mount St. Mary's. I would hold him off to Sunday to play, give him an extra day, a couple days extra days of rest. But well, how will it affect them going further? Well, we're going to have to see him play against, in round 2 and see how he does. I mean, I do think the winner of Mississippi State Baylor, which is basically a toss-up game as well. I have Baylor beating Mississippi State in that one. I think Duke still won't have a problem getting to the Sweet 16. But no, as far as a major concern, not really, because we saw without them, not that they can win a national championship without him. But they had a pretty big lead against North Carolina, almost squandered it, and they had a nice win against Louisville. I mean, Louisville's a pretty good team, much improved team, and it just shows you the depth that they have. They have length everywhere, and you need length when you're defending, or they're one of the top defensive teams in the country. And the only thing is, if he doesn't play, let's say he didn't play, okay, then who is the go-to guy when you need a basket? You know, we all know Cooper is the go-to guy. That would be the only thing that worries me. But I just think they have just too much talent.
Yeah, they are the team as heavy as I've been on SEC, and I didn't have a single future on an ACC team. I didn't think very much of the conference overall. I still don't think very much of outside of Duke. I've got Clemson getting knocked off by our boy Will Wade. So, you know, I got a few things there that kind of lead me away and make me question whether or not Duke has the matchups and the intensity. I almost wonder if with all this realignment, if what's happening in the Big Ten and the SEC is priming them better than the other conferences. And that's my hope with the SEC, with where we're sitting.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Do we know, like, is Cooper Flagg going to play in the first game? Like, he's going to play in the whole tournament.
Yeah.
Barring everything. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I bet you they'll test him out in game one. I mean, his minutes will be restricted probably, but they want to see how he is. And then they also want to see, how does his ankle, does it swell up after? I mean, you know, what type of recovery processes do they have to go through for him?
Yep.
I'll be sniffing his unders.
All right. So from my perspective, I thought this this region was pretty well seeded, top to bottom. Is there anyone you're seeing here that has a chance to kind of go on a run, or that's underseeded, or might pull off the upset in round one?
I have a couple upsets. I mean, I have Liberty over Oregon. You know, Liberty, again, another one of those gritty teams that can shoot the three. I do like Dana as a coach in the tournament, but it's just one of those things where, you know, you got to try to find an upset. You can't go with so many favorites. And Liberty, I watched them play, and you know, they play really well together, and you know, they're experienced, and I got them beating Oregon. But I tell you what, there's a team that we should keep an eye on, and it's VCU. I mean, they in the Atlantic 10. They can defend. And when you have a team that can defend like they do, and they have great guard play, they will. I think they can pull some upsets. And I had them upsetting BYU. I know I haven't. Listen, I know I have a futures ticket on them, but it's basically a coin flip game almost. And you know, BYU is going to have to shoot the three. If they don't shoot the three well, and VCU is defending them, it's going to be a close game to the end. So I did take VCU to upset BYU in that one.
I'm going to try to sell you on one here, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to say it. John Gross has taken Akron to the tourney in 3 of the last 4 years. He has his best team of the bunch this year. Now, I know they're short as hell and probably can't defend Arizona's bench players, but we're looking for magic here, and Gross already did this once with his last MAC team, Ohio, back in 2012. What do we think?
And Tommy Lloyd's still the coach at Arizona, right?
And Tommy Lloyd goes back to our conversation in November, and if there's a dude who seems to never do anything, it seems to be him in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, God, is a 14, what are they, 12, 13, 14-point underdogs in that one. It's a tough one. I did not pick it, but I can understand where you're coming from. That, you know, it's going to be an up and down game too. So more possessions. Maybe Arizona doesn't shoot the ball well, and Akron can work their magic. I don't know. There's something different about this Arizona team. The last 10, 12 games, they've played really well. I'm not the biggest Caleb Love fan. Obviously, everyone knows me. I'm not a Tommy Lloyd fan, but there's something that just, I don't know, man. There's just something about them I like this year. Not to beat Duke, but if Liberty can upset Oregon, or even if they do play Oregon, I have Arizona going to play Duke in the Sweet 16. I know.
All right. Well, I can't fault you for not taking the 4 to lose to the 13. But let me ask this then: across all these regions, what's the lowest seed, and what team do you think has a chance to pull the upset this year?
The lowest seed. Well, I have the 12 at UC San Diego. I'm just looking through the brackets real quick. Liberty's at 12. I don't really like too many others. It's just, that's the one thing about this tournament. If you go through all the adjusted efficiency numbers, it can palm. It really is top heavy. The lower seeds aren't as good as they have been in the past. And I think we are starting to understand the reason for that. And that's the transfer portal. Still some very good teams with some great coaches. But I'm looking right now. I have Drake to beat Missouri. They're an 11 seed. Nothing else really jumps out at me.
Right.
I know some people were talking about Montana, but I mean, Wisconsin is just Montana's not, they're not as good as they have been in the past, and Wisconsin's pretty good this year. They're not bad. Some people were talking about High Point, maybe High Point against the spread, but I can't see High Point knocking off Purdue just based on pure numbers when you look at it. And could Troy give Kentucky a game? They could. Troy could give Kentucky a game if they shoot the ball. Again, if anyone shoots the ball well, really, really well, they can upset anyone. And you want to look for a little bit slower paced teams like a Drake. Drake is the slowest paced team in the country, and they want to play as slow as you possibly can. And they are so efficient offensively. And they're playing a Missouri team that doesn't want to play any defense. So that could benefit Drake in that one.
We're going to get to the Drake.
Yeah, we'll get to that one.
Because we're going to get to the Drake, because I am with you 100% on Drake. We also live in Peoria, Illinois, home of Bradley University, so we have a little bit more insight into the good Missouri Valley teams than maybe some others.
And Purdue lost in the first round the last 2 years, right?
No, they lost 1 year, and last year they went to the national title game.
They went to the national championship.
Right.
They lost the year before. They lost to Fairleigh Dickinson. It was a six.
That's right.
Yeah, we hate Painter. That's true.
We hate Painter.
So okay, all right. So I have Duke, Bama in the Elite Eight here. Anyone ruining that prediction for me?
No, because that's what I have as well. I'm trying to think who could ruin it. I have them losing, but if BYU gets hot, I mean, because they win in Iowa State and beat Iowa State. They lost by 20 to Houston. It's the semifinals of the Big 12. I mean, I wouldn't even worry about a game like that, but because they've been playing really, really well. And again, if they continue to shoot the ball well, I mean, and they go play Alabama in the Sweet 16, anything can happen in that one because they've got some bigs that can play, and they're a high IQ team, and they're coached really well. So, but I have Duke and Alabama in the Elite Eight, and I have Duke going to the Final Four.
Well,
unfortunately, because I have an Alabama ticket as well.
Right. I mean, I don't know what to make of the ACC in general. I do know how loaded Alabama is talent-wise, and that's what made us jump on them way back in May when they were destroying the portal the way they were. They need to button up the defense. Okay. We need a little bit better defense out of Alabama. And
their defense is a lot better than it was last year. I will give them that. They're 4 points per 100 possessions better than they were last year. The one thing that concerns me right now is the injury to Grant Nelson. I haven't really heard anything. I don't know if it's going to be serious. It's one of those things where they may leave him out in the first round against Robert Morris, but if you remember last year, he was an integral part of their run to the Final Four. They need him healthy.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll say this, that I have Bama in my Final Four, and I don't feel good about it. So we'll leave it at that. We're going to head down to, what is this? The Midwest, where Houston is our number 1 seed and Tennessee our 2 seed. Yep. Did Houston get the most screwed of all the teams this year with Gonzaga sitting there as a criminally underseeded 8 in the second round?
Yeah, and there was a lot of rumors out there that they were going to put Gonzaga as an 8 seed. And it just, Houston was the one that got him, So I tell you what, Gonzaga's got a tough game against Georgia. It's not going to be easy. I do think they will win that game. But you can't ask for a better second round game than Houston in the Zags. And I just think Houston's overall talent and their length and their much improved offensive efficiency this year. That's the difference. I hate their pace. Okay, I'm a pace guy where they play slow. So if you play slow, you better be efficient. Go back to the 2019 Virginia team that they were the slowest team in the country, but they were off the charts in efficiency on offense. So they're going to have to be efficient, and I think they will be. They've proven all year that they've done that. But yeah, like I said, that's going to be a great second round matchup, Houston and the Zags.
Yeah, we'll get to what I think of the Zags here in a minute. But how hosed are my Illini? Because they're in this region. They're a 6 seed. They got potentially Kentucky in the second round. If they get past that, Tennessee. They still have to deal with 2 quality teams in Texas and Xavier to even get to that.
Brutal.
Am I in trouble?
Brutal. Yeah, I think you're in. Brutal. I think okay. So we saw when Illinois was on this year, when they were all healthy, they went through a stretch. They played really well. Okay. They, especially offensively. And if they're all healthy and they can come together, I think they're, again, the Texas Xavier game, you're looking at, Illinois probably either the winner of one of those 2 teams are probably looking at a 4 to 6 point spread. The Kentucky game is going to be a coin flip. Based on all the metrics. So can they beat Kentucky? Yeah, they definitely can beat Kentucky. It's not going to be a cakewalk. I do have Kentucky somehow outdueling them in that game. It'll be tough for Illinois, but they can do it. But I do have Kentucky getting to the Sweet 16.
In a year where we had to have 2 18-year-old first-round draft picks potentially, to not be better than a 6 seed, to not be feeling good about things right now. Sorry, Brad. I got some questions, Underwood. I got some questions. But they have been injured. They have been dealt with a lot. But, just when you thought we were getting right in the Big Ten tournament, we turn around and we just get destroyed by Maryland. So I just don't see the consistency there. Like, they can probably beat Texas or Xavier. They can probably beat a game in Kentucky. We already saw them lose a close game to Tennessee, but the odds of them winning all 3 of those in a row just feel minuscule to me.
Very tough to do. They do get the extra day of prep, which I think is good for them. They need a little extra time to get ready for this tournament, but it's brutal. That's a brutal draw that they got.
Midwest region. Are any of these games close for them?
Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah, they're in Milwaukee. Yep.
Yeah, so that's not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. All right, I'm hearing a lot of chatter about High Point over Purdue. I'm not buying that. Any upsets you have circled here? Are you buying that? Anything else? What are you thinking?
No, I'm not buying that at all. I think Purdue, with their experience, their guard play, they'll get the job done. High Point's good. They can score. High Point can score. But they were down in their conference championship game by 15. They had to crawl all the way back, and that's a little concerning to me. If you're then now going to go in and you want to play with the big boys, but I think Purdue gets the job done. I know a lot of talk. Everyone's talking about McNeese State. They're all talking about McNeese State. But I do think the distraction of Will Wade going to North Carolina State, it can take a toll. And we have to remember last year, McNeese State, their metrics weren't that off compared to this year. They're a little bit better this year. They're plus 13.7 adjusted efficiency margin. Last year, they finished at 11.8. And they got smashed by the Zags last year. And the Zags and Clemson have the same adjusted efficiency margin.
Oh, yikes.
So I like to go back the year before to look at how teams were. Like, when we get to this, I don't know what's the bracket. When we get to Maryland, the Maryland game and Grand Canyon, I mean, I'll throw some numbers at you guys. Because I have heard nothing but love for Grand Canyon. So I'm going to go. I'll take a different route and I'll tell you why.
Well, let me say this. I'm very disappointed to hear my McNeese hot take is not even that hot of a take. I thought I was sitting over here. I thought I was hearing Clemson was a popular, trendy team and that they were underseeded. And now I'm hearing I'm not alone. So little disappointed in that, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, Clemson, they went to the Elite Eight last year. They got a ton of returning talent. Top-notch coach. I mean, you'll have them prepared. And McNeese has got athletes. We all know that. But when I look at similar, I mean, are the teams different, the way they play, Clemson and Gonzaga from last year, this year? Yes, but I still look at the same metrics. And McNeese is just a little bit better than they were last year.
I don't know about you, but Utah State facing Mick Cronin feels live to me.
Yeah, I mean, I did take Utah State to win that one. Again, I'm looking for a smaller upset where I can find them because, you know, it's so chalk heavy this year with the top seeds. Mick Cronin, every other day the guy's complaining about something. It's just like enough already. And Utah State has struggled recently, I understand that, but they're well coached and they've got talent that, you know, once they put it together, I think they can upset UCLA in that one.
All right. I feel good about I'm starting to think I have too many upsets in here as I'm going through this. And I'm just, what about this 14 seed? What about this? What about this? All right. Who keeps us from Houston, Tennessee here?
I tell you what, maybe Clemson. I don't have it, but Clemson, maybe just because of their experience, it's going to take a great offensive night and a poor shooting night from Houston. Possibly Kentucky. You know, maybe they can beat Tennessee, but I think Tennessee is just too talented. I just don't see it. I have Houston, Tennessee in the Elite Eight.
I'm calling it. This is the place where I have a singular hot take. Gonzaga upsets Houston in round 2. I don't buy Sam Scum. Don't like him at all. I'm calling Gonzaga to get to the Sweet 16. Who's your Final Four?
My Final Four is I got Tennessee beating Houston. I did take them to the Final Four. I know.
You've got Tennessee. I'm calling for complete chaos in this bracket. Am I going 4 for 4 with 4 SEC teams? I cannot do that, Mike, because I already have Auburn. I already have Alabama. And it turns out I kind of like Florida as well. Yeah. So Rick Barnes blows it somewhere. Give me the Zags to blow this bracket open and sneak all the way into the Final Four this year.
Well, I like it. I think preseason ratings, they were top 3, 4, 5, something like that. And I know Kansas was one, and we'll get to Kansas in a minute in another bracket. But sometimes those preseason ratings, you got to go back and look at them. You know, they might tell you something.
They're still rated very highly. As far as teams that are like rated high by all the advanced metrics and seeded low, they were more hosed than Louisville was. Yeah. You know, and Louisville was another team that got seeded well below where the metrics say they should have been. But Gonzaga, I think that gap, I don't know, I didn't run it all, but it feels like they had the biggest gap between what the experts or what the numbers say they should be and what their seeding was.
Yeah. So they definitely got the raw end of the deal as their the seeding. And like I said, what 1 seed wants to play the Zags in the second round? And Houston got the draw.
And I think my favorite part of this is the fact that all these years now that Gonzaga has been building up and getting to like a 1 seed or a 2 seed or whatever. Mm-hmm. And now they're going to pull the Cinderella again.
Right.
That's what I love.
The shoe fits.
We're looking for fun here. We're looking for magic, and that's what I'm going for. So I have Gonzaga as my 4th team.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to head over to our last region here. We're going to take a look at the West. I've heard more chatter for Florida national champion than any team so far among the pundits.
Oh, wow.
St. John's gets no love. They've got some tough games starting in round 2. What do you make of this region, Mike, overall? Is this going to be Florida dominated, or with the mixture of like UConn and Maryland and some of these other teams in here, is there a possibility for chaos here?
I don't – there's possibility for one chaos. We'll get to them in a second. They're on the lower end of the bracket. But Florida, I'm telling you, they are just as good as UConn was last year. I mean, when you look at all the metrics, they have bigs, they have shooters, they can defend now. They weren't a great defensive team last year. They've got length at all positions, and they have a coach that does not have too much experience. You know, I know – he's never been to the Sweet 16, but I mean, they have talent everywhere. I mean, I felt like they just walked through that SEC tournament and it was nothing. You know, does it concern me that they had to play 3 games on and finish off on Sunday a little bit, but they got the extra day. They do play on March 21st on Friday. So they'll beat the crap out of Norfolk State and they'll get prepared for the winner of UConn and Oklahoma. But it is to me, when you look at everything, this is Florida's bracket to lose.
Wow.
You're going to see some big point spreads in a lot of their games. So if they lose, it'll be a big upset.
From a name perspective, though, they're going from Norfolk State, right? Then they're facing defending champion UConn.
Yeah.
Then they're facing potentially like a Maryland squad who's been
right.
They were very positively talked about in the Big Ten as the Big Ten season went along. Yeah. And then I honestly feel like that Elite Eight game has the potential to ease up for them compared to like maybe their matchups. And like, I like UConn and Maryland as much as I feel like I like almost anyone in the bottom half of this bracket.
Yeah. I'm a little concerned about UConn. I mean, I watched that interview with Danny Hurley, and he's talking about half his players are already thinking about transferring. And they're talking. I don't know if you guys saw the 60-minute interview. I mean, that was the only clip I needed to see. Now, whether is he doing some type of motivational factor for his team? I don't know. But when he said that, I'm going to take him at face value for what he said. Where is the heads or half of his players? Well, they're not playing defense. That's for sure. Their defense is atrocious. And not only that, they play at a slow tempo. They're one of the slowest teams in the country. So if you're playing slow and your defense stinks, it's not a good recipe to have to move on. I know Oklahoma was 6-12 in the SEC, and they, maybe they were seeded a little bit higher than they should have been, but I took Oklahoma over UConn. When I heard the Danny Hurley thing, I said, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm probably wrong because it's UConn and it's Hurley and they've got talent still. But if you look at the metrics, I mean, it's pretty close with them in Oklahoma. So I did take Oklahoma in that one.
I will say Jeremiah Fears is an absolute baller.
He can,
big fan of his.
Good, yeah.
Big fan of his. He was initially committed to Illinois. He reclassified up. He's only 17. Reclassified up.
Wow.
Went to Oklahoma instead because we didn't have room.
He's not even 18.
So he might be now.
Right.
He's supposed to be a senior. He's a senior in high school this year.
Well,
he is balling out.
That was Cooper Flagg too. He reclassified. Cooper Flagg should be in high school. Yeah, that's nuts.
Cooper Flagg is.
They have that talent at 18 years old. That's great.
I know, it's unbelievable. All right. So, any interesting upsets here in the first round for you?
Oh yeah. So I this is the bracket where I'm gonna look like the smartest guy in the room, or be like, dude, what are you even talking about? Okay. I've got Kansas to beat Arkansas. It's gonna be a close game. I've got Kansas. I just look at some of the metrics and, their adjusted efficiency margin. And I know all about Kansas. I know that they have underachieved big time this year. They were preseason number one again. Sometimes you might want to go back to look at some of those preseason rankings. And not saying that they're going to go on and win a national championship, but maybe they can get them through the first couple rounds. I have them obviously playing St. John's. And I have that a real close game. I think I have that St. John's maybe favored by like 3 in that one. So we're talking close to a toss-up. I just think St. John's their offense eventually is going to be their deterrent. It's going to hurt them. I took Kansas over St. John's in that one. And I moved. If we want to go up the bracket, I took Drake against Texas Tech. I took Tech to knock the Cinderella boot off of Drake, and then Texas Tech first Kansas, and Tech should be about a 5 or 6 point favorite in that one. But I rode with Kansas. I did it. I took Kansas against Florida, and that's when the whole everything falls off for Kansas. And so I did. I had to look for some upsets, and I'm not just throwing them out there. I think if you look at all the numbers. Especially against St. John's. I mean, St. John's is getting all the love right now, right?
They don't even have a top 50 offense, correct?
Yeah, I don't even know what St. John. I have to go back and look. Their defense is fantastic, but their adjusted efficiency margin is 26.4, and Kansas right now is 23.3. And the one thing about St. John's, they like to play a little bit faster because they're not, which is fine. When you're not a great offensive team, you want to play a little faster. You don't want to play slow when you're a bad offensive team, but you want to play faster. And their defense is relentless. But at some point, they're going to have to score. They're going to have to score against a quality team. And I still think as much as Kansas has played, not to their number one ranking this preseason number one ranking, I'm just still thinking there's something they have in there. And Bill Self has won 2 national championships. You can say whatever we want about him. Is he overrated as a coach? Whatever. Is he looking forward to next year again? But I thought last year he was looking forward to this year. That's what he said last year at the end of last year. So
right.
I don't know, but that's one of my bigger quote unquote upsets is a 7 seed in Kansas, thinking that because of their preseason ranking, they will somehow put it together. And then when they play Florida, they'll get their brains beaten by Florida. So,
well, I've got my fingers crossed that Kansas does this, but I'm not an expert, so I'm just going to throw it all in the wind here. Mike, Drake is going to knock off Kansas in the Sweet 16. Drake is going to make the Elite Eight, and then I'm going to send Florida on to the Final Four. It sounds like you went Florida, Kansas with Florida on to the Final Four.
Yep. I had I had Maryland going to the Sweet 16 against Florida, with Florida advancing. And again, one of the best Maryland teams we've seen in a while. And be careful of them playing Grand Canyon. That's all I'm going to say, as I have not heard anybody on anywhere saying that they like Maryland that game. And I'm just going to throw some numbers out at you. Okay. Last year, Grand Canyon was pretty good. Okay. They had an adjusted efficiency margin of 14.8. This year, their adjusted efficiency margin is 7.2. They're 7 points per 100% or 100 possessions worse. Okay. Than they were last year. Last year they played St. Mary's. They upset St. Mary's, and St. Mary's finished with a 19.4 adjusted efficiency margin. Okay, so that was a close. It was, metrically it was closer. They got the upset. Then they go play Alabama, which had a 23.0. They finished with a 23.0 adjusted efficiency margin, and Alabama spanked them. Okay, now I know Grand Canyon did not shoot the ball particularly well that game. It might have been some 3-point variance. I understand all that. But now they're playing a Maryland team that has a adjusted efficiency margin of 26.4, which tells me they're better than St. Mary's and Alabama last year. And you're getting a Grand Canyon team that is not as, to me, anywhere as close. And I understand they had some injuries. Every team has injuries. I get all that injuries, but still, for a 7-point difference, are they going to make that 7 points up from last year in the first round against Maryland? I don't think they are. That was one of my bigger bets at Maryland -10.
-10.
Wow.
That's what I was going to ask. What's the number at? -10. Okay. All right. Well, I know what I need to go jump on.
Dip my beak in on that.
Yeah, I'm going to a little dip on that there, Mike. Thank you very much.
I mean, it's a straight numbers play for me, and people saying Maryland might be a little overrated because they don't have a lot of depth. Well, the last time I checked in the first game, you don't need a lot of depth. You need depth maybe as you go on later in the tournament. So.
Yeah.
Well, my whole thought in this bracket is I always like to bet on coaches, the good coaches versus the bad coaches. I'm going to take Colorado State over Memphis in a straight wager against Penny Hardaway.
I got that as well.
That's literally just a bet against Penny Hardaway. And I really like Ben McCollum for Drake.
How do you not love that guy?
Just for everyone in the audience's reference, that Drake team is half filled with D2 players that just dominated at South something Missouri or Northwest Missouri State or something like that. Yeah, and he brought four of them. He brought 4 of the players up from D2 with him to Drake, and they just smoked. They lost 3 games this year.
Amazing story.
Yeah.
Amazing story.
Awesome. So
again, you're looking for slow-paced teams that play excellent defense for upsets in the first round or even the second round to get to the Sweet 16. And they qualify. Okay, and they are just efficient enough on offense, okay, that they are going to get the – Missouri plays no defense whatsoever. They just want to run up and down and play, and Drake will control the tempo in that game. I already bet them at +6, and I might throw a little bit on the money line on them as well. But that's a good that could be a good call for you being Texas Tech. I don't mind that one. I don't mind it. I mean, I have Tech moving on, but I don't mind that one.
I'll be honest, as all these higher seeded teams, Tech's one I don't know a whole lot about in general. So yeah, they kind of came on. All right, so let's move on here. Mike, quick recap here. Who are your Final Four teams?
Okay, I have Duke versus Tennessee. I have Auburn versus Florida. And in a close one, again, it's going to be a coin flip game based on all the numbers. I have Florida eking out a close one against Auburn. I do have Duke beating Tennessee, just more talent, more length, more offense. And I have Florida and Duke in the final. And I did take, and man, boy, do I hope they win with the numbers I got these guys in November. I'm riding with the Florida Gators to win the national championship. So, and again, that'll be a close game as well. It'll be, maybe you might see Duke as a 1 to 2 point favorite, maybe in that one, depending on how these games play out, Cooper Flagg's health, health and all that other stuff. But I see it right now as Duke probably, maybe a 2 to 3 point favorite, and it's in Florida getting the win.
Well, I will tell you this. Those are the two teams that scare me the most based on what we have on our card.
Yeah.
I've got Auburn, Alabama, apparently Gonzaga and Florida, and I want to see the Iron Bowl in the title game. I want to see Auburn versus Alabama, 200 points scored kind of game, something crazy going on, just a lot of that going on because we're sitting on both those tickets. And that's the only real reason I have. And I will tell you this, every bet we've made has been based on our model, which factors in the quality of coaching, the experience of the coaches. And Duke and Florida both scare me because their coaches aren't bad coaches.
Right.
They're just inexperienced coaches.
Exactly.
Right.
So from our perspective, betting into two coaches who've only been to the tournament a couple times each is a little frightening. So from my perspective, that's where, and they're similar. Like you look at Todd Golden and John Shire, just similar guys. So I don't know if they're going to win, but if we lose on the model because of something like that, where it's a young coach, they're really good at what they're doing, and they just figure it out ahead of time, I can live with that result. So I just don't want to see like Rick Barnes win a title because he's a bad head coach. It's Kelvin Sampson. He's a bad head coach. I don't want to see him win a title.
Real quick, so we got Jolly St. Vic in the chat. He's reminding us about his Grand Canyon ticket to win it all, of course.
Oh, yes.
And also, he had a question for Mike. Do you plan to hedge your Florida ticket if it's Florida Duke?
That's a great question. It's a topic conversation on a lot of the gambling talk shows. It depends on what the line is. It really will. Do I want to hedge to make back my entire investment with all the teams I've taken?
Right.
More than likely, if it's close, if the line is close, and let's say Duke is favored, by 2, that's something I probably will look to do it, because you go all this way and I'll tell you the year I didn't hedge, it was 2019. I didn't hedge with Texas Tech, and I look back on it and I said, man, I should have hedged. I had them at some crazy number. I have to go back and look. I took them. It was to win a lot of money, and I just said, I'm letting it ride. And then it was kind of eye-opening for me. Again, hedging is it's each individual. There's no right or wrong answer to that. But I probably will look to get back my investment if I can.
Yeah, good, smart.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up. We've run almost an hour here.
Wow, that's awesome.
That was fantastic. Yeah. Mike, you're sitting on Florida over Duke with Auburn and Tennessee in the finals.
Yep.
I'll be pulling for Auburn. Well, I have a better number on Alabama, but I'm projecting Auburn to beat Bama in the Iron Bowl. We're going to have fun one way or another. I can't wait for all this to be destroyed 2 days into the tournament.
It's like, what do they say? It's like the next on Thursday and Friday, like all offices across the country, like no one gets any work done.
Right.
It's
Right. We glossed over that when we were comparing the college football playoff to the college basketball playoff.
yeah, I didn't gloss over it. It's all day. That's what makes it so
That's
awesome.
what makes it great.
The kids get off school, they're gonna come home. Kids, grab your own snack, watch some basketball with me, do whatever you want, leave me alone.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we're
my
gonna have a
son's
great
home
time.
from college, repping the Clarkson gear. He plays.
Shout out Clarkson.
Yeah, shout out Clarkson. That's awesome.
He's on the b-ball team there. You can go follow him there. He did very proud of him. He had a specific role this year, and you got to star in your role, and he did star in his specific role, and I think his role the next 2 years will get bigger.
Oh,
but it's great that he's home and we can watch the games and have some fun. And
What league is Clarkson in?
they are in the Liberty League.
League.
Ithaca, RPI. Ithaca ended up going to the NCAA Division III tournament. What other schools? Union. A lot of them are D1 hockey schools now, like RIT, Clarkson, RPI. They're D1 in hockey.
Yeah. I was looking at a list of like hockey teams or curling teams. I can't remember, something like that at the college level that were in this tournament at the end of the year. And it was like, try to name these logos. And we couldn't figure out any of them. And RPI was one of the schools that I know.
Yeah.
And that was one of the ones where I was like, well, that's RPI because their logo's an RP and an I.
Oh, yeah. Nailed it.
All right. Great. Anything else for us, Mike, before we let you go?
Well, let's shout out his Twitter account.
I'm gonna.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else for us?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, I just really appreciate you guys having me on. I was just telling some friends today, I love your brand. I love what you guys are doing, and just keep doing what you're doing. And anytime I can assist or help with retweets or anything like that, I'll do it. To grow your product, and I just really enjoy listening to you guys, and hopefully we can connect again in Bet Bash. I'm still like hesitant whether I can make it that week or not. I'm trying to pull some things off, but I'll keep you guys
awesome.
Okay. We will 100% be there this year. That is definitely in our plan. We hope to see you there, and if not, maybe we'll see you out in Vegas for another time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Mike, thanks so much for joining us tonight. You can find all of Mike's content on Twitter at Bets and Reps. That's ANDREPS. In 2 weeks, we're talking with Casino King, Midwest casino road trips and figuring out how to get casinos to let us record inside.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Good juju to everyone's picks this tourney. We'll talk again soon.
Bye.
And I think we're off.
Hey, Mike, dude, thank you for figuring this out with us.
Dude, that was great.